The Weber State Weekly Volleyball Show, a member of the Big Sky Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Colby Peterson. On the show again tonight with me, I've got Jessica Euler. Jessica, great weekend. I saw you took the trip up to Logan, and what a game it was to be up in Logan.
Yeah, it was. I am so glad we bought those tickets and made the trip. It was, one I'll remember forever for sure. So,
yeah,
good times.
If you guys didn't make it, the football show came out today, so if you're interested, go check that out. It's in podcast feeds wherever you want to get them right now. You can get it on YouTube. You can get it on social media as well. But yeah, we talked all about that football matchup against Utah State. We had Desmond Williams on to talk a little bit about that, and so we got the insight on that pick six that really kind of broke the Aggies back. So great game, man.
Yeah, that's what we've been talking about the last 2 days on campus. So it's a good one for sure.
So let's talk a little bit about today's show. We have a player interview for you folks. We have sophomore setter Kate Standifird, the professor, on Weber State Weekly tonight. So we're going to talk to her a little bit about her journey to Weber State, talked a little bit about the last couple of seasons, and now her starting role as the setter for the Wildcats. So we'll go through all of that. Then we'll have some match analysis for you. We'll be talking about the matches at UC Irvine against Gonzaga, and then at Cal State-Fullerton before the Wildcats made the trip back to Ogden. And then for the first time this season, we're busting out Waldo's Magic 8-ball. So we're gonna 8-ball is after our summer off, if it's in good spirits or not. We'll find out really quickly, won't we?
But, yeah, we will.
Yeah. But before we want to get into all that, I want to encourage everybody to subscribe to the show, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, all good places to find Weber State Weekly. You can also listen to it on YouTube. You can listen to it on social media. We stream directly to Facebook and Twitter. And then, of course, if you go straight to WeberStateWeekly.com and go to the podcast tab, it will be the first one up there, or you can just go through and look. They're all there for you. We're also on social media, like I said, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, good places to interact with the Weber State Weekly team. Twitter, especially on game day. This weekend, a little bit complicated because we've got a couple of matches going up on Saturday. So I would say that, don't interact with us on Twitter. Just go to the games. Go Club Swenson. Go to Stewart Stadium. Lots going on there. And then, of course, patreon.com/Weber State Weekly to become a supporter. We want to thank all of our patrons for helping us keep the lights on here at Weber State Weekly. Thank you to you guys for doing that. So, all right, we're through the intro. Now let's bring in sophomore setter Kate Standifird. Kate, want to thank you so much for taking some time out of a busy schedule, no doubt. Semester's just starting, and so I'm sure that after about 3 weeks now, it's starting to get real. But thanks for taking some time to chat with us on Weber State Weekly.
No, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, we're excited too. And so let's start. Because we mentioned the fact that you're a sophomore now, so not too far away from high school. And so because of that, I wanted to kind of go back to some of your high school experience. Reading through the bio, finding out that you were actually on a 5A state championship volleyball team at your alma mater, Sky Ridge High School, along with playing club volleyball in 2017 as well. Had a nice run there. But I wanted to ask, playing at a high level like that, playing in a state championship game in Utah where, we've got some really great local recruits on this year's team. Utah is a really good volleyball. So just a little bit about how that championship run at the high school level kind of gave you some experience making the jump up to D1 college volleyball at Weber State.
Yeah, I think that it was kind of cool, actually. So we won my senior year and my sophomore year. So it was actually the first state championship that anybody actually. So it was a pretty cool experience to be a part of that and be able to be part of one of the first. I think that it definitely helped me to be able to transition from high school to. It has been a couple years, but being able to play in that kind of atmosphere, being loud, and just the competition with the stress levels high, definitely translate into a college where it's kind of like that. There's a lot of people there, it's different, but I definitely think that it helped me, and even my club experience just got me prepared to start and be in those experiences before. Similar when I got here, but yeah.
Nice. And so, I hear what you're saying, right? Where it's like, hey, we played at a high level, and so making the jump to college, it's never going to be a 1-to-1, right? There's always going to be some difference. Game is faster, I'm sure. a conglomeration of more talented athletes, but yeah, you seem to have made that transition well. Jessica Euler, questions for sophomore setter Kate Standifird, the professor.
Yeah, so you had a redshirt season 2019. You finally got a chance to play spring 2021. So kind of what skills were you able to improve in the off season, and then what's really grown since you started playing with the team in 2021?
Yes, as you said, like my freshman year, I redshirted, and so I was able to come in. As hard as that experience was, it was very rewarding for me because I think it allowed me to grow a ton in that, especially that fall and that spring, well, part of and then the fall after that. It allowed me to be able to come. And how it was ran, and just being able to get used to playing with around me and just at that higher level that we kind of talked about before. But I think able to learn how to run the offense and set the way that his setters to be. And so being able to have a little bit more of that time was for me, even though it was kind of a hard experience for me, it was definitely rewarding and change because I was given that opportunity to learn and to become better in just my setting and the way that I run things, I guess would be my best answer.
I mean,
awesome.
It's a big responsibility, right? To take over and say, okay, Kate, the offense is yours now. It's on you. Let's make it happen, right? And so I imagine that having a little bit of time to kind of go through the motions and get to understand the way that Maya likes to do things probably helped you out a bunch.
Definitely.
So talking a little bit about that, right? I mean, we had Ashlyn Power on. I mean, she's probably one of the all-time great Wildcats. Now leads the conference in assists. Like she's an all-time great, not just at the Weber State level, but at the Big Sky level. And last season was her last season, and so now you've taken over for that spot, those shoes to fill. Talk to us a little bit about the impact that Ashlyn had on you, and kind of like some things you were able to learn from her that you can now apply to your game now, because it's not going to be one-to-one, right? Like you're going to play the game your way, but talk to us a little bit about what you learned from her and kind of what you bring to the table because of having a relationship with her.
Yeah, Ash is one of my favorite people on this planet. She's actually one of my best friends. I'll forever be grateful for and love that relationship that we have. Ever since, she has always been so supportive and somebody that I could always turn to. Freshman year, like I maybe redshirted, I didn't play, I kind of backed her up like she included. And throughout all of my years here at Weber, she taught me so much. And as sad as I was to see her go, everything that she did, everything that she possibly could, so that it made my time, because she went through all the hard things. And you've had her on here before, but she is very, very resilient, super supportive, whether it was on the court or even off the court. She taught me and how to be an awesome friend, and always just made me feel part of that. And even though I backed her up for the past 3 years or so, that experience for anything, because being able to have the opportunity to play with her, and then being able to play with her even longer, like she took her COVID year, like even though I be in that setter position, I would never trade the opportunity that I had to be able to play from her even more. Like I just am very grateful for her and me, and she's just one of my best friends, and I will always think very highly of her, and be able to kind of take my setting style the way that I do it, because obviously me and her are alike, but we do things differently, like you said. But if I feel I can always be like, okay, like what are some of the things that Ash taught me? Like how can the mark that she left here and continue on that legacy kind of, and it's allowed who I am and do things the way that I would do them, but also have how to be a good leader and a teammate and a friend, being able to apply those in this setting. She's just been somebody who's always been my rock, and I've always been super grateful for her. Me.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine that, like you said, backing her up and learning from one of the best that's ever done it, not just at Weber State, but also in the conference, and you can always kind of go back and draw on like, oh yeah, this, and, talk about the things that you learn from her and then apply them. It's got to be worth its weight in gold, man.
Yeah, and when you talk about learning from such a great leader and using those skills, when you think about the setter is a lot like the quarterback or the goalie of the team, right? So it's a big skill set to learn because you're kind of helping to manage everybody else. And so I think that'd be my next question of, you've got a pretty big role. You've had a whole heck of a lot of experience for someone who's technically a sophomore right now. How do you use that experience and kind of the leadership position that you have as a setter to kind of lead and guide the younger folks on the squad, the freshmen and sophomores?
We definitely are young. We have quite a few freshmen, and they're all awesome. And I think that just being able to be in, like, I was able to be a part of the team that went to the NCAA tournament and be able to play. And also, I mean, my actual freshman year, 2019, we were, even though I didn't play, like, I got to be a part of that still and experience that. And then last year, go to the NIVC and play, and just being able to have, I think, feeling that kind of atmosphere and the different, obviously, some things can be heightened just because it's a bigger, there's postseason tournaments, they're a big deal. But yeah, I think that being able to has been good for me to be able to help the younger classmen, because things that I go through, they're most likely going through right now or will go through eventually, to empathize with them and talk to them and build that connection with them, I think is a big help. And that not only strengthens, like, but it also does off the court. And as much as we love volleyball, and volleyball is everything, off the court means so much more. And those are relationships that we'll have for the rest. Being able to create those relationships through the different experiences they'll go through, I think helps me to be a better leader and helps me be able to get them in the direction that they want to go. And yeah, just, I think, but kind of like you said.
That's pretty good. Yeah, and I think you're right. You've had some incredible experiences already with 2 major tournaments. You've played with some awesome teammates, but I really like what you said about that, the importance of the relationships on and off the court, right? Because this is absolutely something that you're doing now, but you're growing together and building those relationships that you'll have for a long time to go. And I think it's that kind of leadership and relationship building that make your position as a setter and how you work with others even that much more important, because it's not just a game. It is all those relationships that y'all have.
Kate, I wanted to talk a little bit about this season. So not this weekend, but the weekend prior, you all were down in Las Vegas. Big tournament. We knew that UNLV was going to be there. They won that NIVC that you played in. And so it was like, wow, okay, it's going to be UNLV. It's going to be St. John's, which is a good team from back east in New York. And then, a fringe top 25 team in the University of Miami, Florida. So I wanted to ask a little bit about that UNLV game specifically, because it seemed like that was, your best performance of the weekend. What in particular energized you to play at such a high level against a really good Mountain West opponent, right? Like, that's probably a top 4 Mountain West opponent. And you just really had a great game against them. Kind of what was it about that? Was it preparation? Was it just energy because you were excited to be out there and play against them? Talk to us a little bit about that match in particular.
Yeah, so UNLV is a good team and a good matchup. They ended up winning the NIVC last year, and exciting to be able to go play these hard teams because no matter what the outcome, you can learn and you can grow from the experience and you can get better. My there, I think just a big thing was I wanted to help my teammates the best that I can, put them in positions where they could be successful, and learning how to keep putting them in those different positions and helping them and finding ways to succeed was a big thing. And it showed. I think that in a way of going and fighting together and everybody having each other's back, that even if I was struggling, if I put everything I had on the floor and something happened, them would have my back. And I think that allowed me to go just play freely and play everything that I can to help them succeed. And yeah.
So I guess, just the act of having teammates and, like you said, having some confidence that like the team is going to have your back. We can go in and play a tough team because we're together as a unit, and like it's house money. Let's just do what we want to do. And I mean, you guys came away with the dub, which, when I saw the final score, I was like, whoa, they just beat UNLV 3-1. Like, oh my gosh, that is a big win in this out of conference schedule, which is a tough one this year.
Yeah, I think my last question for you, Kate, is Colby's mentioned it a couple of times during the podcast, but we recently learned your nickname is the Professor from teaching volleyball classes on campus. So do you have a coaching career in your future?
I hope so. That's the plan. My major right now is teaching, and so I would like to teach, and I'd like to teach PE, and then I have a promotion. So being able to teach PE and help, but coaching definitely is something I'm thinking a lot about. And I teach this class. There's 3 different classes in one. I have like 18 kids or so it's a lot of fun. They're pretty good, even for just starting, and so I'm excited to see where that goes. I do a bunch of camps every summer. I coach at different during the springtime while we're in the off season, but it definitely is something that I would like to pursue in the future. So we'll see what that holds for me. It'll be good things.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like you have one heck of a start on it, so that's cool to hear.
It is kind of fun. I really like it. So
yeah.
Man, camps and everything. That's a lot. So a lot for, like I said, so much stuff for a sophomore. Like it's just crazy, the experience that you've got. We put the question out on social media. We're like, hey, we've got the professor on tonight. Who would like to ask questions? And we got some questions on Instagram. And so this is a question from somebody you know and love well. She wants to know, who is your favorite driver in Kayla crew?
Driver, it has to be Sammy. Obviously, Sammy Stewart. The crew is the best car, just so everybody knows that. But
another question from the same person. Who's your favorite blocking coach for your first 3 seasons?
My favorite blocking coach?
Yeah.
Kayla Morgan. If any,
Kayla Morgan, probably, right?
She's not. Sadly, she's not with us. She's still, but she's been awesome, and we do miss her a lot. We love her, and she's always there. But she was the best blocking coach for the past 3 years.
Yeah. Like you said, Kayla Morgan, still on campus. Now she's associate athletic director, working up, kind of in an administrative role, but still around. And so probably get to see her still around. campus and in Club Swenson a fair bit. So yeah, we got those questions in. We're like, oh yeah, we got to ask these. These are too good not to ask. So
No, those are good questions.
Well, Kate Standifird, we want to thank you so much for taking some time to chat with us here on Weber State Weekly. Like we said, we know you all are busy. Got a big week coming up. UVU on Thursday, and then Utah State in Club Swenson on Saturday, which is going to be a really tough matchup. So want to wish you all the best of luck in your prep this week and also in your classes. And hopefully you can come away with some dubs because these are some tough matchups. But as we've seen already this season, I mean, the Wildcats can be up to the task, even though it's a young squad. They can make some noise.
No, thanks for having me. It's been fun being able to talk to you guys and everything.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kate. We'll see you.
Thank you.
Man, I want to thank Kate Standifird, the professor, one more time for hanging out with us here on Weber State Weekly tonight. First of many, I'm sure, because like we said a million times already, like just a sophomore now being tasked with, setting duties. Jessica, I think that, man, like she's got a great career ahead of her, especially with she has that mind to coaching, right? Like I think that's going to pay dividends as the seasons wear on and she's coaching up her teammates, making them better. It's going to be great.
Yeah. And what a great role she's in to do exactly what she wants to keep doing forever. And it's fun that she already knows that. So and all the stuff she's doing. So yeah, definitely a fun conversation.
Well, let's move on and talk a little bit about this weekend's matches because there were 3. The Wildcats took a trip to Southern California. It was kind of this weird split tournament of sorts. 2 matches at UC Irvine, 1 at Cal State-Fullerton. They're not super far away from each other, but it is like a little bit of a shuttle between the 2, right? So let's start with the first one against the Anteaters. I was doing some research before, and I looked at the history between the 2 teams. The Anteaters have the Wildcats' number. The Wildcats have faced them 3 times now. And they've been swept every time we've faced them. Every time. The Wildcats have not been able to win a set off of the UC Irvine Anteaters. And I'm like, man, what is up with that? And so, Jessica, I want to ask you, I mean, with this match in particular on, I think it was Thursday night, I mean, what do you think that kind of kept Weber from playing their game? Because we've seen how potent they can be. We talked about the weekend previous in Vegas, downing UNLV, then St. John's, and then also taking a set from Miami, which nobody had done in the country to that point, right? Of course, the Wildcats do fall 3-1 to the Hurricanes, but taking a set in that match was, unprecedented so far in the season. What was it about this matchup, though, that was just like, Wildcats couldn't get it, and they ended up getting swept out of the gym?
Yeah, I spent a little bit of time watching the games and looking at stat sheets because I had a similar question last week. I was like, man, we've got them this year, right? And we actually had, some pretty big scoring margins in a couple of those sets. So I think part of it is they're a little bit taller team than we are. And, inches make a difference in a game like this.
True.
We had quite a few service errors, which we've had throughout games thus far. And I think, that's something that we'll continue to refine. And then craziness, because clearly I had time to just look into stats. They have UC Irvine #1 in the nation in assists per set. So I was just, so they're a team that seems like they've just really meshed well together. And I think that we probably saw a lot of that. So there were some different factors, definitely some errors on our end where, when we're going up to serve and it's not going over, that's an easy point to give away, and they had less of those overall. So it was a pretty good looking matchup. Definitely one where we just have some errors going on our side still.
Yeah, I think it's a good point on the service errors because, like you said, those are free points. That's tough, especially, we started #AState last year because the Wildcats were so effective from the service line, scored so many points from the service line. They were just up there as one of the best serving teams in the country. And so with a lot of new recruits, I think that, just give the coaching staff at Weber State some time to work with them. I think that that'll get refined, right? Like you said, it's just they're working through a lot of young folks, folks getting, like Kate getting really like first consistent reps for the first time in their careers. And so, Kate's a very good server. She was very good last season, but just giving the other players a little bit of time to get some coaching. I have full faith in Jeremiah Larson and his crew. They're gonna coach these kids up and get them up to snuff when it comes to the service line. It's a big part of what he does, and so not to worry. But a good point with assist per set, because when you have a team that is really comfortable in their system, and they want to, and they're able to get it out where they need to, and also, just good at, really good defense, good at getting those digs and getting the ball back up in the air and back across
Yeah.
the net. That's tough, right? I mean, that's a tough matchup, and I think the Wildcats saw that.
Yep, I think you're right.
So, I mean, we talked about how the offense seemingly was working for the Anteaters, but the offense was not really working super well for the Wildcats. They had, they ended up for the match with a 130 hit percentage, a little bit different than what we had seen in the previous weekends. I mean, is that the growing pains? We talked about that there would be growing pains this year, right? And so, do you feel like that's part of it? Like, there's like the offense just wasn't clicking this weekend, because we'll talk about the next two matches in a bit, but the offense in this particular match just wasn't flowing. And do you think that, like I said, that's just growing pains, still gelling? What do you think?
I think part of it absolutely is that, once again, when you look at the stat line here, we had 20 attack errors, right? Like that's rather high. When you're watching the game, you're seeing us, we're hitting it out of bounds quite a bit, and part of that's just follow through on the kill that we're working to refine. And I think the other thing, just, going back to what I said a second ago, they were a tall team. So they're a little bit intimidating at the net. And I think that can lead to getting in your head a little bit and some of those unintended errors. But really, I think any of those pieces that I just mentioned go back to growing pains, right? Like this is something that we're continuing to refine. We're meshing as a team, and we'll start to work through those the more we play together.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's a young team, like we said, a lot of new faces. It's going to take a little bit of time. We talked about, that's why we kind of like the way that the schedule's set up. It kind of ramps up to some of the best teams in the conference as things, heat up. And so that gives the team time to ramp up. And so rough weekend, but hopefully opportunities to kind of get better, make mistakes now in the out of conference. And then when it comes tournament time, hopefully they can make some noise.
Yeah.
But there was a win this weekend. The Wildcats, they ended up falling to UC Irvine. Like we said, 3-0, got swept out of the gym. But then the next day, they took on Gonzaga of the West Coast Conference. And looking through this one, man, because this game was not televised. It was just live stats. This one was interesting because it was a game of runs, right? Like the Wildcats, maybe they were neck and neck, and then bam, they would just like break off like a run of like 5, 6, 7 points, bam, bam, bam. And then it was just really out of Gonzaga's reach, right? The offense, it seemed, had a flip in this match, and they were going. And so I wanted to ask you, like, it seemed like, of course, the offense was working, but also, I mean, Gonzaga struggled to find the floor. They just did not score a lot of points against the Wildcats. And so how much do you think it was the defense sort of inspiring the offense? Like, do you think that that's a thing in volleyball? They talk about it in basketball, but I mean, is it a thing in volleyball as well?
I haven't really thought about it that way. I think it certainly could be, right? Anytime you get momentum, you're going to keep momentum. And so I think that it works both ways, right? Offense inspiring defense inspiring offense. If I'm getting up there and getting a kill, then I'm going to be more likely to get up and get a block later on. So I think that there's probably something to it. And this is one where we did a heck of a lot better, right? We had a whole heck of a lot less errors on our attack errors. We were at 12 as opposed to 20 in the prior game. And I think that sort of thing makes a big difference. And we spread it out, right? So certainly our veterans on the team, Danny and Emma and Bailey, played well, but we also, like we've talked about over a couple episodes here, we have Ashley Knighting showing back up and Sane doing well. So it's nice to see. It feels like this is really evidence of when we're meshing and gelling together. Like this is what it can look like. And, Gonzaga is one that I bet if we looked at the stat sheet, we've beat them before if we've played them. So
yeah, I mean, there's a history there. The Zags have there's a history going back to the 80s. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's not like a first time we've seen this team. It's been a little while. It's been about 6-7 years, but I mean, before. Usually play them now on a neutral site, so it's fine. But yeah, I think that looking through the stat sheet, because that's all we had on this one. I think you're right that this one was really led by the more experienced players on the team, right? Like Danny ends up leading all players with 11 kills. Emma Mangum right there tying her with 11 kills. Bailey Bodley with 8 kills, and I think it's kind of funny because we talk about Bailey Bodley, who just finished her freshman season last year, now in her sophomore season, but just having that playing with the experienced team last year that the Wildcats had probably helped, jump her forward. And just looking through, it's like, yeah, I mean, all of the folks who played last year at a high level or had experience playing with the team that played at a high level, they showed up in this match. And, the Wildcats got back on the right track because they were on a 2-match losing streak at that point, right? They had lost to Miami, and then you start the weekend losing to Irvine, the Anteaters, and it's like, okay, now you come in, sweep Gonzaga, and take care of business against them, just boom, boom, boom. I think that made a big difference, having that experience show up, because 25-18 in the first set, 25-23 in the second set, it was competitive. Then 25-15 in the third, like it was done at that point. They were ready to go home,
Yep.
Final thoughts on the Gonzaga match before we move on to Fullerton?
Well, I think just what you were saying, I think it was a good win to get in after having 2 games that we lost, right? So I'm super glad we had that match in there because I think it gets us excited, keeps us going.
Yeah, I think it would have been tough on it's a young team, like we said, and I think that mental maturity comes with experience, right? And, when you're in a funk, and so if you had gone 0-for-3 this weekend plus lost the last match in Vegas, that might get a little bit, right? Because now, we'll talk about this in a second, but there's a couple of really tough matches coming up in state for the Wildcats this week. And, taking the trip to Orem to play UVU, who have been recent tournament team, and then also Utah State coming to Club Swenson to take on the Wildcats. I mean, they've had some serious ones. They've already beat number 11 UCLA. They've played, they've hung tough against a good Pitt team. These guys they're good. And so I think that had they gone 0-of-3 this weekend, going into this week, it probably would have been bad news.
Right.
But, hopefully that W in between kind of helped buoy spirits a little bit,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So let's talk about the final match against Cal State-Fullerton. Danny Richards did not play. I guess she ended up being hurt for this one, some sort of minor injury. From what I understand, she will be back this week, but didn't play. And so we saw a little bit of shift. That meant Michaela Sorensen playing as outside hitter, which apparently she did in high school. We've seen a little bit of that this season already. And so she came in and she had an okay game. She had some career highs. But, man, this Fullerton game was another tough one, right?
Yeah.
Go back to the Danny Richards injury. I mean, are we worried about that? Do you think that it's something, from what I'm hearing, she's going to play this week, but do you think that it has an effect on the remainder of the season? Because sometimes that can happen. You come back from an injury no, but you're really not 100%.
Yeah, she had her knee taped up in the UC Irvine game, I noticed. Once again, we didn't see Gonzaga, so I didn't know if it was still there. So I don't know if that has something to do with it. I do think, if she's coming back to play, that gives me a lot of hope, right? So let's just work through it. I'm sure we've got her going through PT and everything to get ready to come back. So I'm hoping that it's something that you run into as an athlete where you just need to take a little bit of a break and work through that. So I'm just going to have hope at this point and say, yeah, she's going to be fine and come back better than ever.
Yeah, I'm with you. I hope so, right? Because, she's the reigning Big Sky Conference MVP. We know how dangerous she is. Just talking a little bit about where she's at, in terms of all-time Wildcat stuff. She's now in the top 10 in Wildcat history in career kills, right? And,
wow.
And that's going to continue to climb as she goes through the season. Obviously, she was hurt, like we said, in that Fullerton match, but we've already seen greatness from Danny Richards, and I think that we'll continue to see that. She's such a huge part of this team. So missing her there, I think, probably has an impact on this match in a way that, if she had played, maybe it's a W,
I agree. And this was a close one, right?
Right.
There were no complete blowouts. And I think that whenever you look at it, certainly when you have to adjust and you're, with Michaela playing in position, she's not playing all the time. And you have a team that's gelling and then you throw a wrench in it. I think that's going to impact folks for sure, especially, once again, being a younger team. So I think they did well considering that they made those changes. And, so we'll see what's to come.
Yeah. One player that really stood out in this Cal State-Fullerton game was Brielle Rickard. She is, the All-American middle blocker who came in from Pleasant Grove. Oh, is that right? Oh, they're going to shoot me now. I can't remember if it was Pleasant Grove. If it's not Pleasant Grove, I'm very sorry. But came in from Utah County, I believe, and has not had the freshmen have had opportunities this season. This was a big game for her. She had a 727 hit percentage on 8 of 11 attempts. She was just finding the floor. And so now we've seen Sane Katoa. We've seen Ashley Knighting. She had a good game here. We've seen now Brielle Rickard have good matches. But they all have been at different times. So, I mean, do you think that that's a function of just needing to play together a little bit more to gel? Because it seems like everybody's had their high points. I mean, Sane Katoa just a couple of weeks ago being named Conference Player of the Week. I mean, do you think that it's just a matter of time? Because if they can be consistent and everybody's firing at the same time, man, that's a dangerous team, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think that's exactly what we're waiting for. It looks like Timpview High School for Brielle.
So
yeah.
Provo, right?
Yep.
Sorry.
But I think that's exactly it. I think we're seeing just how incredible each of these players are. And then I think you're spot on. So when it's not just on each of them, it's all of them together. I think we're going to kick butt. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, still looking for some of that consistency, I think, offensively, because like you said, there were no blowouts in this one. But sometimes it's, I don't know, what's worse, to lose close or to get blown out?
Yeah. Heavens, I don't ever want to have to pick.
Yeah. And, mentioning Pleasant Grove, I think I was thinking Ashley Knighting. She was Pleasant Grove High, so that's probably what I was thinking there. But Brielle Rickard, Timpview High, sorry if you're listening. I don't know if Pleasant Grove and Timpview are rivals, but I always like that when someone's like, Colby, didn't you go to like Bonneville? Like, how dare you? I went to Roy High. Don't you put that even on. Go to Fremont, Colby? Like, no, I did not go to Fremont. I went to Roy High. So one last thing I wanted to mention here, because a name that we haven't said a lot, we said it a little bit here tonight, but I think that a name that should be shouted out here is Bailey Bodley. Was pretty consistent throughout the weekend, right? Like she was always in kills. You would always see her name on the stat sheet as somebody who was contributing, not necessarily leading the pack, because playing middle blocker, that's not necessarily a thing that she's going to do, but making those contributions. And I think I like what we're seeing with her with the progression, right? We had her on last week to talk a little bit about her experience, and it seems like she's making the most of the opportunities that she's getting this season, just like she did last season.
Mm-hmm. Yep, agreed. Yeah, she's a dang good player and a fun interview. So
yeah, she was fun, huh?
Yeah.
All right. So like we said, unfortunately, the Wildcats fall 3-1 to the Titans of Cal State-Fullerton. And that closed out the weekend. They go 1 of 2. They are now 5-4 on the season, tied for second place in the conference. Conference schedule the conference standings are just so weird right now, man. Like Idaho State is up. I think they're like
they are like second or something, aren't they?
Yeah, they're 1 right now. I think they're
okay.
6-5, I think, or something like that. They've got one more win than the 3 teams that are just below them, and that's like Weber State, Northern Colorado, I think Sac State, who just had a really big win. I'll have to go back and look who they beat, but they had a big win. And so it's just the conference standings right now. I don't know what to make of them. They just seem so weird, because it's like, is Idaho State really that good? I didn't expect them to be this good.
I'm just ignoring the conference standings. I don't think we've played enough for it to count yet. That's what I'm going to say.
And out-of-conference schedules are so different, right?
Like,
some teams really push themselves, and they play hard teams, like we've seen with the Wildcats. I mean, as much as I hate to say it, Northern Colorado has been doing that as well. They've been playing tough teams, and they've been beating some of them, right? And so I think that not all out-of-conference schedules are created equally. And so I think that's maybe what we're seeing, is that like Idaho State is benefiting from kind of a soft schedule once conference play gets started, which it will here in about a week. We're going to see things start to settle down a little bit, take the shape that we thought in the preseason.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're spot on with that.
So let's talk a little bit about now our game. So like we said, we've got Waldo's Magic 8 Ball for the first time in season 3. So we've polished it. We've shaken it up. It's ready to go. And we're ready for the first question. So, Jessica, I wanted to get your first question about one of the freshmen. Is there some wisdom that you'd like to glean from Waldo's Magic 8 Ball about this freshman class?
Well, there is, but Waldo's Magic 8 Ball tends to be non-committal with me, but I'm going to give him a try.
It's true. It has been that way.
So right now, speaking of conference standings, Sane is number 4 in the conference in blocks. So does Sane finish in the top 5 in the conference in blocks?
Okay, a good question, right? Because she's had a really good out-of-conference schedule, already been conference player of the week.
Yep.
Let's shake Waldo's Magic 8 Ball and ask,
Let's do it.
Will Sane Katoa be in the top 5 in blocks by the time the dust settles at the end of the season? Shaking Waldo's Magic 8 Ball, and our answer is, come on. Oh, my sources say no. We're off to a salty start.
Oh, okay. Ouch.
I know, right out the gate. I'm gonna ask my question then. So my question is, we have yet to see
one. Okay, I was just gonna say, ask one that's not gonna hurt so much when.
Okay. We have yet to see Rose Moore. She was another one of those All-Americans that, committed to Weber State in this freshman class. She's been injured with some knee problems from what I understand. And so really hoping to see her this season. And so my question is, but it may not happen, maybe something that lingers. And so she'll have to redshirt this year, which is understandable. So my question to Waldo's Magic 8 Ball, will we see Rose Moore in a Wildcat uniform this season? Magic 8 Ball, the answer is... outlook says not so good. Wow, we are off to an awful start this season. We're 0 for 2. Oh, yeah. 0 for 2.
Okay. Okay, because I know what I want to ask next. So,
okay. All right. So let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about. We talked just a second ago about the conference standings. So Jessica, I wanted to give you a chance to ask Waldo's Magic 8 Ball a question about those conference standings because, like we said, they're really weird right now.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go softball with Waldo's Magic 8 Ball here.
Nice and easy.
And say, are the conference standings going to level themselves out? And we're going to see Weber State, Northern Colorado 1-2 here in the next few weeks.
Okay. Shaking Waldo's Magic 8 Ball. Will the conference standings level out and take the shape that we thought they would? My reply is no. So what?
I'm done with Waldo. I don't want to play this game anymore.
Chaos? Is that what that means? Conference chaos in the Big Sky this year?
Idaho State sweeps us. Never anticipated it. Okay.
Yeah, Idaho State wins the conference. Who knows?
Yeah. I'm buying you a new Magic 8 Ball. That's what I'm doing after this.
Oh, yeah. So a team that I've been watching kind of closely in the talking about conference standings is I've been really, really surprised at the play of Montana State. I expected them to be a lot better than they've been. I mean, when they played the Wildcats last season, when they played in Bozeman, that was a tough match. When they played again in Ogden, when they played in the conference tournament, they took them to 5. Montana State was a team that I fully expected to be a top 4 team this season, right? That has not been the case thus far. They have really dropped some games that have shocked me because I thought they were a better team than that. And so my question to Waldo's Magic 8 Ball is, sort of outside of Weber State, but within the conference, are the Bobcats going to right the ship or will they continue to sink? Because right now things are looking a little bit dire. Shaking Waldo's Magic 8 Ball, the answer is very doubtful. So first of all, that's another salty answer. So we haven't gotten a good answer yet. What's up with that? But also, that's bad news for the Bobcats if it's actually true.
Yeah.
Okay. Final questions, Jessica, for Waldo's Magic 8 Ball. Then we could be done with this because it's not exactly going the way we had hoped.
It hurts my feelings.
Questions about matches now after all the answers we've gotten. I'm like, I don't know if I want to ask.
Right. But here we go. So we pulled off the upset in football against Utah State. I think arguably if we beat them in volleyball, we will be pulling off the upset again because they beat, like you mentioned, some really good teams so far. So will we continue you like how much energy I come in with this? And I know what Waldo's Magic 8 Ball is going to tell me. Will we come off with 2 upsets in a 7-day period?
Okay. That's a great question. Shaking Waldo's Magic 8 Ball. Will we see 2 upsets of the Aggies? My reply is no. Man.
Oh my
God. What is the deal? I don't even want to ask my question now because it's just been bad answer after bad answer. We have not gotten one positive answer out of Waldo's Magic
We
8 Ball. Like,
haven't.
is this all like bad juju from, the summer of not being used?
I don't know. I think Waldo's Magic 8 Ball woke up on the wrong side of the bed.
Yeah, it definitely feels that way. We have not gotten a single positive answer yet. So my question is this. You asked, about the potential upset on Saturday. I'm interested to see this UVU game because
Mhm.
UVU, like we said, is a team that has been in the conference or has been in the national tournament in recent years. They went to the NCAA tournament the same year that the Wildcats did.
Mhm.
They were WAC champions that year. Following year, last year, when against the Wildcats at Club Swenson, it was a close match. Like I thought the Wildcats were going to lose, but we ended
Mhm.
up coming back and winning that match in 5 sets and retaining the streak on Club Swenson's floor. So I don't know what to expect now because we've seen them be a very good team. The Wildcats,
Yep.
are working some things out. So my question to Waldo's Magic 8 Ball, will it be competitive between the Wildcats and the Wolverines on Thursday night?
Way to come in with a softball for Waldo's Magic 8 Ball there.
You've seen what it's given us tonight. So
I
let's
did.
shake
I
it.
respect how you framed that question.
Will the Wildcats be competitive against the Wolverines? Ask again later. What does that mean? I'm asking again now.
Do it.
Will the Wildcats be competitive against the Wolverines on Thursday? The answer, don't count on it. Oh my gosh, dude. All right, I'm done with this.
I don't want to play this game ever
I don't want to play this
again.
game anymore. So let's move on because that was
Okay.
bad answer after bad answer after bad answer. So some bad vibes from Waldo's Magic 8 Ball right now. So let's look at the upcoming schedule. Like we said, Thursday, September 15th, Wildcats will take the trip down to Orem to take on the Wolverines of UVU. That match will start at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. You can watch it on ESPN Plus like me, or you can hit the road. Orem's not that far away. Go be in their gym. All Waldo's Magic 8 Ball, bad juju aside, you can go down to Orem and watch them play. Then on Saturday, September 17th, the Wildcats return home for the first time in a couple weeks and face Utah State. Like we said, this is going to be a tough match. Utah State has a very quality team, and they've already got some quality wins under their belt. So make sure you get to Club Swenson on Saturday, 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Buy your tickets at WeberStateSports.com, or like me, just watch it on ESPN Plus. And then when you're done, go over to the tailgate. Go over and tailgate, and then go to the football game. Wildcats taking on Utah Tech this weekend at Stewart Stadium. So a lot to like this weekend. Then next week, we start conference play. Wildcats, Thursday, September 22nd, take the trip up to Portland to play Portland State. This is going to be a tough game. Portland State is going to be a good team. 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. That game will be on ESPN Plus. And then Saturday, September 24th, back at Club Swenson to take on the Northern Arizona Lumberjacks. That match will be at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. You can buy your tickets at WeberStateSports.com or ESPN Plus, but buy your tickets. Just go. It's fun to be at Club Swenson. Then finally, Friday, September 30th, taking the quick trip up to Pocatello to take on Idaho State. We'll see what they're all about for real. 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time for that one. You can hit the road and go up to Pocatello or just watch it on ESPN Plus. Then Thursday, October 6th, taking the trip up to Cheney at Eastern Washington, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on ESPN Plus. So that's the show. We're going to wrap it up. WeberStateWeekly@gmail.com is how to email us. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, our Patreon, and then, of course, the blog. I was supposed to – I need to go back and check. We were supposed to have grades from Saturday's win, and we haven't – I got to check and see if our panel has given me grades. We have like half of them in, so should be some sort of content on the blog coming up soon, grading Saturday's performance by the football team against Utah State. Want to thank Jessica Euler once again for hanging out with us here on Weber State Weekly. Always grateful to have you on and hear your insights.
Yep, love being here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and so we'll wrap it up like we always do. Weber State, Weber State.
Great.